Welcome to the Loyal Homes Podcast. I'm Chris Fenton and I'm joined with Vittoria Solda. And today we're going to talk about getting your house ready for the real estate market.
Yeah, it's a really good, important step that we should talk about. So I'm excited to have this podcast with you, Chris, and let people know.
Nice. Okay, let's get started.
Yeah, so let's talk about timing. Should a seller be looking at getting their house prepared in advance, or can that be a mistake in a changing market?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the answer is, of course, it depends. If you're in a market where prices are dropping really quickly, then I would say that you probably want to make that preparation period as short as possible. But generally speaking, in a market that's fairly stable, I think it makes sense to start thinking in advance. My wife and I are getting ready to sell our house, and we started doing things like a year in advance. So that's my best advice. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think it depends what the market is looking like and what kind of things you're looking at doing. So yeah, I definitely think it can depend.
Okay. So here's the next logical question that flows. Which renovations actually add value, and which ones maybe just make you feel better that your house is going on the market and these are done?
Yeah, I would say renovations like, demossing your roof, add kind of some value there as well. And also just kind of decluttering and finishing jobs that are you might have started and they're not finished yet, right?
I think a year out, I always think things that are cosmetic, generally speaking, have a great return on investment, whereas things that are more functional or foundational tend to not have as good a return on investment. So I always like to tell people, if you're a year out, then paint every surface that isn't fresh, and don't paint it your favorite colors, paint it whatever's neutral and popular at the time. I think flooring's another one that, depending, but flooring is another one. If you have carpets, get them out and get a more modern product on the ground. What else 1 year out?
So those are all very important. First impressions are really important too, like doing some landscaping and kind of getting your home prepared that way. Maybe finishing some paint on the exterior too, or doing some new paint if it needs a refresher.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about kitchens and bathrooms. Should sellers be thinking about kitchens and bathroom renovations a year out?
It would depend again, right? Like, so if they are definitely considering doing it, they should be thinking about it a year out because it takes a while to get tradespeople in and ordering the cabinets and the countertops and all of that. But really, I think if they're starting to kind of consider that, having a real estate agent come in and help kind of give them advice on what to do and what not to do and what could add value.
Yeah, because it depends on the price point of the house. It depends on the
Right.
product that's like the kitchen and bathroom that's already in place. There's a whole bunch that go into it. If you have a very high end home and but you have a dated kitchen, it might make sense.
Right.
If you're a $400,000 house and your kitchens could just use a freshening up, then it's probably a big waste of money, right? Like it really depends. So having that agent come in makes a ton of sense.
Is it better to renovate fully or price strategically for the next buyer to come in?
I mean, that depends too, right? Like, I guess there's going to be a lot of it depends in this podcast, but um, I think anything that is depending on your situation too, but anything that is the cosmetic stuff, I think those renovations make a lot of sense. Again, picking neutral colors. There's very little that if you're trying to get top dollar, that I would leave to the next person. Having said that, if your situation is such that you don't have the wherewithal, the time, the effort, the money to do those upgrades, there's things you can do that are much less work. They can get you part way there and leave the rest for the next owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about maintenance issues? What maintenance issues should be addressed early to avoid red flags later on?
I think like just again finishing areas that are unfinished because those buyers kind of question, what's going on there. If there's any old staining anywhere, that would be a big one to kind of if it's not new and just to paint over that and fix that so it doesn't
How many
leave
times
more.
have you run into
Yeah.
that where you're pricing a house and there's a water stain on the ceiling and they're like, that's from before we did the roof 10 years ago
Right.
and the damage left, but that's what you're talking about, right?
That's right, exactly. And then also, like I said, with demossing the roof is a big one because even if your roof is about 7 years old and you start to see moss, which is normal, a potential buyer will think that it may be older than it is, right? So it's definitely another way. Cleaning gutters so they're not overflowing. It shows that you take good maintenance of the home. So those are a couple things.
I'll throw hot water tank out there. Hot water tank
Right.
is one that if it's past its expiry date, it's absolutely going to come up in due diligence. So you might as well get ahead of it, right?
Absolutely.
Now, how important is documenting upgrades with permits over time where permits are required?
Fairly important. A potential buyer loves to come in and see documentation and warranties and permits with the home. And so that I would say it shows that, that we've done the due diligence and there's not any red flags of the work that's been done.
Yeah, we sell houses all the time that don't have permits. We have to disclose that by law. That
Right.
it's not a hindrance to a sale, but if you're getting work done moving forward, get the permits, right?
That's right.
When should a seller bring in a real estate advisor? At what point of they're starting to think about selling? So we're a year out. Is that too early to bring in a real estate advisor to have a look around?
I don't think so. I think it's a good time to bring in a real estate advisor because you can discuss renovations that you are thinking about doing, and we can suggest if we think it's going to add value to your home or not. So I think early on in the stage, we can have that discussion and then come back closer to when the work is done too and kind of do the formal evaluation for the market.
Yeah, I got called out to do a pricing of a house recently, and when I got there, the gentleman he made cabinets in his garage for fun. So he was like crazy skilled woodworker. Place was really nicely renovated, and he didn't actually want a price when I got there. What he wanted to know is what should he do and should he not do. And an example was he had bought the shower to pull out the tub. So there's two bathrooms. Downstairs had a shower, upstairs had a tub shower combo. He was going to pull out the tub and put this beautiful shower in. And I was like, whoa, hang on. 50% of people, roughly, are bath people, and they're not
Hmm.
going to buy a house without a bath. So that saved him from making, a mistake that was going to narrow his market down by 50%.
100%. And people do that. They tailor their home to what they would like, not typically what the most amount of buyers would like. So,
Totally.
and we get to see that every day. So it's great to, I think, again, bring the realtor in firsthand. So
Okay, now let's switch time frames. We're zooming from a year and we're now a month out. What should happen about a month before going live?
a month before going live, you would be doing all the fresh touch ups and paint, starting to really get into that deep clean, like doing windows, doing anywhere like that people may look in closets, things like that, and kind of organizing and decluttering, really moving out as much stuff as you can possibly so that we can show the space a lot better. And then, pressure washing the driveway, things like that that can make it look just fresh. Chris, do you think sellers should do home inspections,
Like a
pre-home inspection?
pre-inspection? Yes, I like them. We don't see them very commonly in our market, but I do like them. It allows you to figure out what the next inspection is going to find and get ahead of all those issues. I don't think it stops the next buyer from getting an inspection. It might, but it means any of those things that are going to crop up, you're going to know about them. You're going to be able to figure them out. I'd probably do it more than a month in advance, though. I'd probably do it a year in advance or 6 months in advance. What's your take on that?
The answer is it depends. It depends on what situation they're in, the seller, like if they have financial means to do some things that might come up. And so it depends on the house and how what position the seller's in.
Yeah, it can definitely save money. If
Yeah,
you do an $800 inspection and they find nothing wrong, then you're probably out $800. It depends.
it does. Yeah.
How aggressive should decluttering? So you mentioned decluttering, but how aggressive should we be 1 month out?
Ideally, it would be awesome to have a full declutter, even if you get the storage unit. It really does help with those potential buyers coming in and being able to visualize their self in the home. So ideally, you would be removing everything and leaving minimal furniture in the home and putting away things.
What role does staging play a month out?
I think it's staging your home is very important just to have that vision that a potential buyer is like having the neutral paints and the neutral flooring and having minimal things in there. I think it's really important, and houses do sell faster for more money when they are staged properly.
Yeah, staging doesn't have to mean that you hire a professional stager and pay them, thousands of dollars to come in and
Right.
bring furniture. It can mean that you have somebody give you some advice and use what you have or move things around or declutter. Right? There's different levels of staging for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just suggestions from your real estate advisor too. Just because you have a different perspective kind of coming in and looking at it, right? When you live in your home is your home, and you don't notice these things as much, right? Because it's your space. And when you come to list your home, it's almost like you're not living in it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So
So
family
well,
photo
different
family photos come down
family photos come on depersonalized. Art pieces are usually generally okay. It's just more the personal photos.
depending on
Yeah.
the art. Yeah.
We all put things on our fridge, taking those down off that is really it shows way better too as well. So what do you think the final week looks like when you're getting ready to list your home?
I think it's just all those things, but really, really paying attention to details. So I always tell people stand on the front, look at your house. First impressions mean everything. So drive up to your house, pretend you don't live there. What do you see? Is there anything that needs to be touched up? Anything that needs to be moved? Are the garbage cans out in the front yard? Do you normally keep them there? Whatever those small things are that you don't notice because you live there, Do the same thing when you walk through the front door. And then for me, it's like I have this big thing about countertops. I think your kitchen counter should be completely decluttered. I think during showings, your bathroom counter should be completely decluttered. Pets, smells come into it. I think a week out, you really need to start thinking about smells. What do you think are the small details that make a big difference in photos?
In photos, moving like the garbage cans, like you said, moving the pet beds, moving, dog balls, anything like that. And definitely clearing off the countertops. Like that is a big putting your everyday appliances away if you can. And yeah, it definitely helps with making things look professional in photos. So,
I was talking earlier, my wife and I are looking at houses, and we went and looked at this stunning house on a couple of acres backing onto the river. And we walked in. We have 2 kids, we have 2 dogs, we have 2 cats. So we have a typical, like, our kids are young. We have a typical house full of all of that stuff. And we walked into this house and it was just pristine. And we walked around and we're like, I don't know if this would be good. Our dogs might scratch the floors. It wasn't until we got to the garage that we found 2 dog beds stacked in the garage, and we realized that they had removed all trace of their animals prior to the showing. It was unbelievable and really smart,
right. Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Curb appeal. We kind of talked about this. Tell me how important you think curb appeal is at scale of one.
Well, it's right when they pull up to your house and they look at your house and kind of decide if they want to go into it. A lot of people drive by it before even booking a showing, right? So it's really important. So things like pressure washing your driveway, putting some nice fresh flowers out, weeding that garden in the front, taking away anything like debris or anything like that, and just cleaning up that yard is important. And yeah, like I said, having that kind of nice finished paint on the outside helps too.
So let's deep dive into pets. I already gave this story, but let's
Okay.
deep dive into pets. What's the issue with selling a house with pets, and what should you do about it?
The issue is that when you're selling your house, you're trying to appeal to as many potential buyers as you can. And some people love pets, other people don't have pets. Sometimes people have allergies that are affected by pets as well. So when you come in a home, and usually, like I have 2 dogs and a cat as well. And so, you don't notice your own kind of pet smells as much because you're living in the home. So you kind of want to go extra far with that. So you think like, obviously washing your floors and vacuuming and doing all those things, but also removing all the pet items, the dog bowls and things like that for when people come through does help with that.
Yeah, if you have carpets or you have cloth couches and your dogs go on them, even when you're not home, you probably don't realize that your house smells like dog. But to someone who doesn't have a dog, it smells like dog. So,
Yes. Yeah.
do something about that. Cat litters, they're probably the biggest culprit. But I would say smells are probably the most offensive of all the senses. So address
Yeah.
those.
Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And even when you go into a home and you have those kind of like air fresheners, the non-natural ones, that can also send off some red flags for a buyer. Like, what are they trying to mask here? So if you are thinking about, putting a scent in there, doing some more of the natural essential oils are the way to go. Or boiling the cinnamon on the stove or baking the pie, those kind of ones, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So now let's switch gears. The house is live and we start getting showing requests. What are the top 3 things we should be doing before every showing?
Opening up all your blinds so that it's bright and inviting, turning all your lights on. If it's winter time and you have a gas fireplace or a wood fireplace to put on, that really helps. But also if it's summertime and it's really hot, trying to have your house as cool as possible too. So those are kind of tips for getting that home ready. Moving things out of the entryway too as well, because as they come in, so putting away those extra shoes and coats and things as best as you can.
Yeah. I mean, if I was to give my top 3, I would start with one that should be obvious is don't be there.
Yeah.
Number 2 is light, as you said, and then number 3 is smells. I mean, those to me are the 3 things to address.
And removing pets.
Don't be
Yeah.
there. And then again, countertops, like the bathroom, get your toothbrush.
Right.
If you're the type that keeps your toothbrush on the counter, put it away.
Hmm.
How clean is clean enough? Because you have to live there.
Yeah.
You're getting 10 showings and you're living
Yeah.
in the house. How clean is clean enough?
So, Chris, I think that having that extra clean, so if it's your kind of your general clean that you're thinking, do a bit extra, scrub a little bit harder, clean a bit more often, like clean before a showing. So it's kind of like you want to do the deep, deep clean before you list it. So it's not stressful every time you have a showing. But before those showings, you want to kind of do a fresh clean so everything smells great and looks great.
That feeling when you come home and your cleaner's been there and it smells like clean. That's what you're
Right.
looking
Yeah,
for.
that's right.
Um, what other smell or environmental factors turn buyers off immediately other than pets?
Water smells too, like a musty smell. So sometimes you go into a house and maybe it's the washer, and it's got some wet towels in there or wet cloths, that kind of musky smell, or you go into a basement and it hasn't been aired out in a long time. So those are typical ones that I find that put alarms up for sellers, for buyers.
Yeah, I think those are really good. I would add food smells. I would say be careful what you cook the night before or for breakfast that morning. Like
Right.
you don't want it smelling like something with strong spices that lingers. Do
Mhm.
what you can there. You still have to live in the house. So how do you maintain, I mean, you kind of already spoke to this, but how do you maintain consistency as the weeks go on? I mean, in this market, it can take a house a month or two to sell. How do you maintain consistency and keep your sanity as the weeks go on?
So, you move out. No, I'm just kidding. I think that sometimes people have a cleaner that comes in regularly just to relieve the stress off of them. So that can be an option if that is something you can do, or it can be stressful cleaning your own house before every showing. It is absolutely. But having that deep clean, like I said beforehand, that month, and maybe, the goal would be to sell your home as quick as possible. But maybe if you're on the house longer, you might have to have another deep clean.
Totally. I was going to say your best combating being consistent over months is don't take months to sell. And the best way to do that is everything we talked about and making sure your house is competitively priced so that when a buyer is looking at 5 houses, they pick yours because it's the best priced house. That's going to help a lot. It's going to get you the most money anyways, but it's going to help with the stress as well.
Absolutely.
Now, last question. If you could only give one of these pieces of advice to a seller, what's the one that's most important above all else?
I think that decluttering your home as much as you can is the one piece I would give of advice.
Declutter and clean to
Yeah.
win.
I was gonna say clean, but you said one.
Right. Declutter, clean. It's all one.
That's right. Yeah.
This is the Loyal Homes Podcast, episode 8. We're going to be aiming to do these every 2 weeks. Vittoria and I are going to get together and we're going to talk about different topics in real estate and dive deep into things as we did here. So thanks for your time today, Vittoria. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Make sure to subscribe and we'll see
Yeah.
you in a couple weeks.
Yeah. See you guys next time.